The first session for the Equity Mobility Breakout presentation called the Vehicle Trajectory Stitching and Reconstruction Method for Digital Twin Applications with High-Resolution Roadside LiDAR Data. The presenter is going to be Anjiang Chen. He is a graduate research assistant at the School of Engineering at Rutgers University and had got his bachelor's degree at the Beijing University of Technology, his master's at Northwestern. Please.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you everyone for work. And good afternoon. My name is Anjiang, and this is my topic today. So first, I will introduce the project where my research comes from. So it's the Data City Smart Mobility Testing Ground project, which is right now happening in the New Brunswick downtown. So in this project, we are deploying self-driving grid roadside sensoring and computer infrastructure at several intersections on part of the corridor of the road 27 and road 18, and I will propose it to develop a smart mobility management center for the traffic operation and management for the traffic agencies, and also develop a digital twin model to support some early stage R&D, such as the CAV technology and some of the connected vehicle safety applications. So today my topic is mainly use the trajectory data from the roadside LiDAR sensors and also use them as a traffic dynamic input as for our digital twin model. So yeah, here's some roadside LiDAR information. So at each intersection we have a valid alpha prime, which is 128 beams LiDAR. Mounted about 20 feet above the ground, and this LiDAR is connected to each compute box, which we can generate the trajectory data from these LiDAR sensors. So here's some of the sample road trajectories of the vehicles. We are trying to broadcast them into the standard DSRC message format. So we have the location information, size information, and also the orientation information for each vehicles. And here's some other the data planning application based on our LiDAR sensors and the trajectory data. Here's a near miss detection between the vehicles and the pedestrians here. So this pedestrian didn't use the crowd work to cross the street, and it just very close to a vehicle there. So we can detect some these safety issues based on our LiDAR data. However, you can see this LiDAR data is just directly from the LiDAR view, and it's a 2D image. So what we want to do is we want to build a 3D virtual replications for all the road users and also vehicles and also the environment dynamics of the real-world transport systems. So right now I'm using a color emulator, which is an open source platform that can support all the portions that I mentioned. And here's some examples. So we build up the 3D model for one intersection. This is a New Brunswick train station, and we have several applications such as the connected vehicle simulation and also some of the sensor segmentation in this software. So to do so, we need two parts of the data. So first one is the virtual world static access, and the next part is what I focus on today is the high quality traffic data here. So when we really dig in our trajectory data generated from our LiDAR sensors, we saw several issues here. So because of some of the detection or tracking issues from the algorithm, or some of the blind zone issues that was caused by the traffic dynamics, and also the from the LiDAR itself, we have these several issues. And when we and these issues reflected in the digital twin model, you can see some vehicles didn't have the correct facing and travel direction, and some vehicles just vanished in the middle of the roadway, which is never happened in the real world. So we want to fix these issues and just to process our data as to a very high quality refined data that can be used for this digital twin model. So the first part is what I'm doing for our 3D virtual world. So firstly, I got the LiDAR location and orientation at two adjoint intersections in the New Brunswick area. So it's the Albany and George intersection and also the Albany Nelson intersection. And I also get some of the LiDAR scanning files. Sorry, it's a little bit dark, but yeah, it's just use some of the mobile LiDARs that are mounted on the vehicles, and we're scanning all the streets and the plants and the road networks for these two intersections. Yeah, I'm very grateful that our another professor, Dr. Jacob, give us these LiDAR scanning files. So firstly, I generate all these data and use that and build up the infrastructure and the road network 3D assets for all these the files I got. And also I create another centerline map, which there's like thousands of points that can represent our roadway network in these two intersections. And then I will use them as a reference for our vehicle trajectory data when I just input and process these trajectories into our digital twin model. So here's a very quick view of our 3D virtual world. You can see we have like the buildings and the road network, roadway network in the digital twin model. I just remove some like the plans for a good view. And also we have like these small points which is just directly from the centerline map. So I will use them as a reference to import our trajectory data. So the next part is how I process my trajectories. So first, for the centerline map, I didn't like use the GPS coordinates to format this centerline map. I use the offset based on the travel directions. For example, for the eastbound driveway, if the starting point on the boundary of our research area, I will set up the offset is 0 meters there, and when it arrives the endpoints of our research boundary, I just set up is the max distance. So the benefits here is that when I use them to project our trajectory points here, I just reduce like the 3D dimension trajectory points from like the XY and the time series to a 2D format. Like I only have like I have the offsets of each vehicle on these roadways for each line, and also I have the time steps here. So I can know like on every second or on every 0.1 seconds where my vehicle located at on which line in this area. So the next step, I divide this all the trajectory data into these 4 categories. So the complete trajectories, yeah, that's good. So if a vehicle can just drive from like the start point to the end point directly in our research area, so that means this is a good trajectory. I didn't have any like broken points. So that's the complete trajectories. But if there are some like broken points of a trajectory in the midway, it can be divided into 2 categories. So the upstream trajectory and also the downstream trajectories. And if you have like several broken points in the midway, we need to do like several rounds to detect the trajectory and find where the broken points is. So it can be divided into 3 parts: the upstream, midstream, and downstream trajectories. So based on these categories, I do some of the prediction based on the broken time interval and also the offset gaps and also the speeds of the vehicles to do and try to stitch all these trajectory back and interpolate and reconstruct them for the missing points within these broken areas. So here is like temporal, spatial and temporal diagram of our trajectories. So you can see, sorry, it's a little bit thinner. So we can see if there's some like broken here, the color will change and the ID of the vehicle will switch. So that means it's just lost the detection and the tracking in the midway will cause like some of the issues I showed before in our digital twin model. So and the last step is the dynamic control method in the digital twin model. So actually I update every 0.1 seconds. Update their spatial information in our digital twin model for every 0.1 seconds. So I can not only like control their location information in this digital model, I can also know like their like orientation and their headings, and also which vehicles just drive in our research area and drive out our research area for each 0.1 seconds. So here I will show some of the preliminary results of our trajectory processing. So the first one is about the overall data quality of our trajectory data in these two intersections. So you can see there are like millions of points on each day during the. This is only peak hour, like 2 hours for each day, and you can see there's like millions of points, trajectory points within that time period. But we also have like several like missing points. So I use the interpolation method to insert them back to the correct position. And also we have several like the smooth method for some the speed, the distortion, and also the incorrect position points. So all the trajectories are interpolated and smooth. This is an example of the trajectory stitching results, like before the process and after the process, on one line based on the timestamp and also the offsets on the roadway. So you can see in this area A, B, C, D, there's lots of like the broken points, but actually they are the same vehicle, the one trajectory for the same vehicles. So based on after the processing, like all the trajectories are stitched back, and we do some smooth and interpolation for all these trajectories to avoid like some of this speed and position impact area. And then you can see like the straight line means that this trajectory is directly on this drive line, and the circle mark and also the X mark here means that it has a line change behavior from the other line or drive to another line. But with that, we can also detect them based on our center line map method. So we can deal with like all the trajectories, whatever it has like line changing or not. So here is some of the comparison in our digital twin model before and after the trajectory stitch and reconstruction. So you can see before the process, we will have some like the incorrect issues and also like some shapes of this will just change in the middle of the way. But after that, so like most of these problems are solved, and we just keep the smooth and the continuous running of the vehicles like in the middle of the way. So you can see like most of the questions like happening in this intersection area. That's because that our LiDAR is mounted, on the signal light gantries here. So this area is just directly under the LiDAR sensors. The LiDAR sensors have a detect angle which cannot cover like all the areas that was under the LiDAR sensors. So it will cause like lots of the loss tracking in the intersection area. So here is some of the stitch results of the algorithm. So if one vehicle was has some broken points, so the ID will switch between the before and after the broken points. So when I stitch them back, I also assign the same vehicle ID send the vehicle ID back to the same vehicle. So you can see like for these two intersections, I have like around 93% vehicles that was fixed. And also you can see this is speed map and where I stitch these trajectory back. Sometimes it's always happened just under the LiDAR positions and also on the offset corner that was most like blocked by other vehicles. And the last one is our digital twin model demonstration, that the comparison between our camera angle and also our digital twin angle. So actually, we have the capabilities to do. Sorry, it's a little bit latency here. So actually, we have the capability to do like some the dynamic time that updates our digital twin model at the same time when we receive our trajectory data. So we can just replicate everything in the real time, so we can have like the same data stream as the camera does. And also we can mount our view in any of the vehicles in this traffic flow, or we can set up connected autonomous vehicle directly in our traffic flow in this digital twin model. So we can give some like the safety parameters or the driving behaviors of this connected vehicle from our digital twin model. So rather than that, before we really deploying them on this mixed traffic condition in the real world, we can do lots of analysis like to avoid some of the injuries and other like situations. So here are some remaining works of my model. So firstly, yeah, you didn't see any like the pedestrians in my model. That was because like it has the pedestrians trajectory had the same issue as the vehicle, which has some like breaking points because they are like when the LiDAR detect the persons is a little bit smaller than the vehicles. So and also you will see like a couple of the persons that work together. So I'm digging like to find like more algorithm to input all the pedestrians in to do the testing. And also for these pedestrian road users, they may like use the skateboard or the scooters, so they may have like a different workspace. So that should be another part I should consider in this modeling. And also another part is our line projection method. Right now I'm using the center line map, which only considers the points of each line. But now I'm deploying a new method which will consider all the line lines and also the vehicle bounding box for each vehicle trajectory. So we can do like more powerful detection where and when this vehicle do like the line changing behavior. And also, you know, sometimes the arterial streets in the urban area is very complicated. It has like some of the street parking area and also some of the loading and unloading behavior for like the transit bus. So we can do more flexible detection when we use this line projection method. And the last part is like we definitely need to solve like the latency issues for our digital model, because this model is a very computer resource consuming method. So yeah, need some like optimization. So for the future work is that, so here's a road image in our LiDAR for this two intersection. So you can see there's a little bit of overlaps between these two intersections, the blue one, the green one. So right now the sensors are work independently. So if one vehicle drives through this overlap area, the two LiDAR sensors will recognize that there was two vehicles there because they don't know each other. There's only one vehicle just passed through. So the next step is that we are trying to also stitch the LiDAR sensors and each other, so the vehicle can be recognized as one if there's only one vehicle that drives through these two intersections. So yeah, that's important because that if we didn't do that, if we really deploying like a connected vehicle, they will recognize that there was two trajectories here. So the vehicle will may recognize that there was two vehicles here. That was maybe cause some like the safety issues. And also, so right now we have 8 sites that are around the Route 27 and Route 18 right now. I'm using these two intersections in the New Brunswick to build up the digital twin model. But in the future, I will expand all this model to these streets that where we have these sensors, and also try to use a large range of the trajectory data, like drag like through all these intersections to do some testing and all. Yeah, that's all I have today. Thank you so much. Any questions?
I have one question. So when you have the two LiDAR, you're saying that you have to, right here, they haven't been sequenced yet?
Yeah, so right now, yeah, they are working independently. So our thoughts is like we want to like set up some anchor points like to perfectly first stitch all these LiDAR like this LiDAR detection files back, how you can see there's some offset here, but we first want to make them perfect, align with the real geometry situation. And then when a vehicle was driving through from the upstream to the downstream, when they pass through this area, when two lidars can detect them, maybe we can get two trajectory data from two lidar sensors. But when we try to import them into our digital twin model, I will stitch the trajectory back between these two sensors, so there was only one vehicle in our digital model. And when we send these messages to some potential connected technologies, there should be one vehicle there, not two.
Yeah, I imagine that's pretty difficult.
Yeah. So yeah. Yeah, but yeah, I'm aware. But
with the bounding box of, I think the previous slide. So, as of right now, the model considers a vehicle to be 1 point. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I mean, it has the bounding box information, but because of my centerline map is the point level, and also the trajectory is point level.
It follows the center line.
When I do the projection, it follows the centerline, but actually I keep all the the original information of the vehicles, and when I do the smooth and interpolation, I also do the both for also the projected points and also the original points.
Thank you.
Yeah, but definitely when we use this line projection method, we will keep all the original information and the bounding box for each.
Yeah, if you go to project and teaching, that's what consider range changing as well.
Yes. So yeah, you can see. So this is before the process. There's only a few points here. So the circle marks means that it's on the joint lines. Because this vehicle has some line changing behavior. So and it only have you only detect several points before it changes to this line. But after the process, we found all the points that when it just drive on another line, and when it drive to this line, I can also detect them. So I just stitch them back to the corresponding trajectory sphere. Yeah. So basically, so it's a line-based projection. But when I do a prediction in the broken areas, I will also consider all other lines. But the same lines of the high priority. But I also consider other lines if I cannot find the trajectory on the same line in the first round.
So very basic question. What are your criteria of choosing particular intersections?
Sorry?
What are the criteria of choosing particular intersection? Why should you choose that?
Yeah, so basically, so this is our first deployed sites in the New Brunswick area, and actually I think this is the biggest intersections in the New Brunswick area, and it also have some different traffic dynamics because right now if you go to this intersection, actually this act is already closed, so it has some difference in in winter and summer, and also on this street lines it has some street parking, which we will consider some vehicle may drive in and drive through, and also there's some the trucks for the unloading behavior right now just stopped on the drive line here. So I think this intersection we can consider lots of the traffic dynamic situation when we testing our digital twin model here. So and this one is just the downstream intersection of this intersection, and when we try to deploy the two intersection, the giant intersection, I choose this one. So when I do the LiDAR stitch in the future, so I choose this two intersection.
And you are using state-of-the-art equipment because you mentioned because there is bottom, that is the hidden spot.
Yeah, correct.
So there is nothing better than that out there.
Yeah, actually, so sometimes we will consider like tilting the lidars to a specific angle that may be more facing the roadway network. But so the first of all, the situation that we didn't tilting that on these two intersections, and another part is that the alpha quadrant lidar, so the lidar we used have like I think it's the best detect range, like up to 300 meters radius. So we just want to cover like more areas in these intersections. And also, if we just tilting the tilting the lidar, besides the angle that the lidar facing it, they will lose some detection on from other like directions. And based on one of my colleagues' research, it will cause like some more like the dynamic blend zone that was like if the lasers detect on our vehicle, it will maybe cause some shadow area behind that, and will cause like some other vehicles lost in that shadow area. So before like tilting, the tilting is a solution, but we definitely need to calculate the best tilting angle if we try to do that.
Yes. So you said that you are still working on pedestrian.
Yes.
I see some pedestrian was walking there.
Oh yes. Yeah. So.
Yeah, the first video has that.
Yeah, and there's a lot of like the person like this voice it just uses skateboard directly in the middle way, which is I think is a dangerous action here. I know we see some persons are running with a dog, so yeah, that's some of the problems I need to solve too. First, I need to like find the correct model to create these persons in my model, and then I will modify like their space and their actions in this traffic flows. So yeah, that's some works.
Okay, there are no further comments. Thank you. All right, welcome everybody to our second equity mobility presentation. It's called Comparative Analysis of Arterial Characteristics to Evaluate Road Diet Lane Reduction Potential. The presenter is Dr. Thomas Brennan. He received a PhD from Purdue University and is on faculty nearby at the College of New Jersey. Dr. Brennan has over 20 years of experience in consulting and research. Dr. Brennan, please.
Thank you very much. Very well. You can memorize all that stuff. Sorry, I was up late last night. Yeah, it was an awful baseball game. And so I'm a little bit tired from that and a little sore from yelling and screaming. So this is what this is. So I was, just take a step back. So this is basically like a 30,000 foot. We're just starting to look at some of the data that should be collected with regards to road diet lane reductions and things like that. And I'm starting to tool my research into that. I've been doing a lot of traffic operations for years. But as we're doing the traffic operations, you see a lot of instances where pedestrians are ignored or bicyclists are ignored. And so I'm not going to get into too much detail regarding opinions, but I just want to do this little video real quick because this is the easiest way to explain it. I try to explain it to my students this way. Hopefully this will start right away. Let's go see if that works out. And it's just me talking, but still, hopefully it gives you a little bit of a sense of what the purpose of this is. Hello, I am Professor Brennan with the College of New Jersey, and I'm here to talk to you about road diets. Now, what is a road diet? This is not a road diet. This is a road in desperate need of a road diet. What a road diet achieves? Well, a couple different things. One, provides a little bit more mobility for bicyclists and pedestrians. Why do we need these types of things? Well, people need to walk more, people need to bike more. And also, if you look at one side of the road, we have the College of New Jersey. We look at the other side of the road, we have a church and residential developments. This road has basically become a wall between those two areas. A road diet seeks to bring these two a little closer together. Now, right here is Route 31. It's 4 lanes. People going 40 miles per hour posted. I think they're going a little faster than that. So what's a road diet going to do? Well, it's going to make people slow down a little bit. Is that a bad thing? Depends on the perspective. From my perspective, it's not a bad thing because I'm standing here as a pedestrian right now, separated by about 3.5 foot of grass, and I'd say 2.5 inches of curb. Now, when cars and vehicles come up this road, they can come up here pretty fast. This is not the most comfortable place to be. As part of my class, I have students walk down this road, and then I have them tell me, are you comfortable? Usually the answer is no, not particularly. What are we studying? We want to make sure that the road diets are being implemented. They are in fact slowing people down. But what are the longer term impacts? Remember, all of us are going to be mobilely impaired at some point in our lives. We're all going to have to rely on somebody else or another type of vehicle. We might be able to walk, but we might not be able to drive. And so when we're designing these types of things, we're not talking about just now, we're talking about the future. And mind you, this example that I'm giving you right now, not that bad. We have a college campus with a bunch of amenities, and we have a residential neighborhood. Mostly college students who need to get to class. Of course, they have to traverse 4 lanes of roadway in order to get to class and risking life or limb, but they're a little bit younger, a little bit more mobile. Now, when we go to certain neighborhoods, we have an aged population. Maybe it's not the same. Or we have a population who can't afford cars. This is what we're trying to seek. We're trying to look at what those impacts are. Well, they do come by pretty quick. We want to see what these impacts are on these neighborhoods. Are they going to actually reap the benefit, not only of safety, but economic benefit? Because if you can't afford a car, but it's easy for you to walk or bike to your amenities, well, maybe life's going to be a little bit better. Maybe it's going to be a little bit more improved. A person shouldn't have to risk life or limb to get across the street to do their laundry or get some food at a store. There's a lot of issues tied with transportation. But the cool part about it, I think there's a lot of solutions that are tied to transportation too. So that's my basic little welcoming video. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll talk a little bit more later. Thank you. Now, I am not a videographer in any way, shape, or form, so I just kind of put that together. But hopefully it illustrates that point. I can't take you out in the field, and hopefully this will, there we go. Hopefully, I'd like to take you all out in the field and kind of demonstrate these things, but I don't have that ability. And I have a laboratory and things like that. We can kind of look at some of these things. But I just wanted to lay out the study site. And so I have one of my students do this, who's now working for Colliers, a very intelligent student, Rachel Hanna. And what we looked at 31 here. That's the working. I got some point. We're looking at 31 here, and so we took 31 and said, all right, what can we compare that to that's locally, right? Because there's a lot of behavioral things that are regionally influenced. And so we took this and looked at 206, and we looked at the similarities between the two. 206 has a college on it, that's Rider University. 31 has a college on it, the College of New Jersey. There's some high schools, private high schools down on 206. We have some public schools on 31. And so we made these sort of basic comparisons. In addition, we have NJ31, the AADT, is 14,000, whereas 206 is 16,000. And that's a really good point to be made because there's more traffic traveling in 206 comparatively. And so that's something that was kind of surprising. I thought it was going to be the opposite. So we looked at 1 mile of this. The reason we looked at 1 mile is we're looking at traffic message channels. We're able to collect pro vehicle data analytics. And had we had a little bit more money, a little bit more time, we would have actually gone out there and done speed studies. But instead we took the pro vehicle route because this was a little bit easier. Unfortunately, we couldn't get the exact mileage, and so we're going to normalize that sort of thing. But we had 2 miles in 31 and 1 mile in 206. And so now we're going to go through that comparison. One of the other things to take a look at and to consider, and these are the things, again, 30,000 feet, starting to try to take a look at these things. What are the economic impacts? What are the stores? What are what's the average income? What's the average property tax? All these types of things will be coming into play. But for right now, we're just trying to take a look at all the data. And this is a snapshot of historically disadvantaged areas. The College of New Jersey is right here. Rider University is not as much into it. There's certain areas, if you're familiar with it, you go across one road, you know you're in Lawrence, you know you're in the other town. There's some things that are kind of indicators of that. This area here is just south of campus. It's historically disadvantaged, not transportation-wise, but just in general for income. And this area as well. And let me just point out this as well. For 31, they have to bus students from one side of 31 to the other side of 31. There's 3 schools in Ewing, and they all kind of bump over each side of the 31. All the students have to be bused across because they're so unsafe. And again, just looking at the general data here, looking at the crash data. This is all rough data. I'm not doing any statistics. I'm not doing anything crazy. We're just taking raw data and just showing. And we'll try to figure this out later. But this was just done like last year. But we see here, right, there's 23 incidents at the campus entrance, and I've seen 4 or 5 of them. I had one of my students had a brain bleed. He got hit on his bike, and this is one sample point that's in my class. Another student got hit on a bike and said he never reported it. So that just gives you an indicator. This is 2 students in my class. We only graduate 30 students a year, so you start doing that statistic, maybe it gets a little bit crazier. But the one with the brain bleed was from Germany. He's like, I don't understand. I was riding a bike like I normally do in Europe, and then somebody just hit me. It's like, it was kind of weird. Not used to this, right? So there's a little bit of a social understanding that we're trying to get through as well. The total of 294 crashes over 2 miles, and this is just from 2018 to 2031. This includes COVID, and so we try to keep that COVID in there as well. But we see those sort of markers there. Now, if we look at 206, we only had 63 incidents over 1 mile. So we'll start to normalize that, but you can already see per mile we had a lot. Mind you, the intersection right here, there's 3 fuel stations and a 7-Eleven. And they all have some funky entrances. And so if you stay there for half an hour, you'll see some really near misses. And the LiDAR, Dr. Jim was showing you earlier, and Najim was showing you, that'd be great at that intersection to kind of see where those near misses are. And I had a student living right up the road from me. It was like, oh yeah, it was like a constant, you hear the crunch like once a week, you hear some sort of like a rear end collision or something like that. And we didn't go into the depth of how well we're reporting these sort of incidents. We're just taking this raw data from the what's it called, Voyager, safety Voyager is where we're just taking this information. So again, at the entrance is the most problematic here, and these are all coming off at 29. In both instances, people are coming off at 29. One of the professors at TCJ had a sedan in her front yard at one point because people were racing through her neighborhood. So again, riders here, you're crossing road, just to kind of give you an idea, this is over a 1 mile area. And so this is just a comparison of these types of things, nothing, just a side by side. Mind you, they're not scaled together. So red here means worse than red here. But you got 18 incidents, 23 incidents is a green on this one. It's because this corridor has so many, touch screens. So this corridor has so many incidents on it, right, that this got normalized out, whereas Ryder's a standing one. With Ryder, the way it is, that's probably an intersection you'd probably be able to fix, and not getting into the whole operation aspects and geometry aspects, but you can pinpoint that one pretty easily. But this one's got a whole bunch of different issues, right? And that might be a result of the fact we have 2 lanes going in 2 directions. We have no left turn going into campus, a dedicated left turn. We have no reason to slow down along those roads. I find myself going out on green and going, I'm doing 45, no problem. There's no indication that tells me I need to slow down. No college signs. You go down to Rowan University, you go on, was it 232? 332? I can never remember. I'm from that area. I just remember the road names. Thank you. And so you know you're on campus, you know to slow down. On 206, you know to kind of slow down because it feels, and you get that behavioral thing. You start getting those, you start feeling those federal highway friction factors as you start driving down those roads. So then this is that breakdown of the metrics, just to kind of lay this out. Pedestrian crossings, 12 and 7.1, intersection roads. And this is per mile, by the way. So this has been normalized, right? So this gives you an indication of just comparing these two together. The biggest difference being that 31 has 4 lanes and 206 has 2 lanes. Higher crashes per mile, 147.5 compared to 64. Higher ADT, right? 16,000 to 14. So what's the change from 40 miles per hour to 35 miles per hour? If we change the speed alone, would that have an impact on it? And I would say the answer is probably no. The posted speed, people ignore it all the time. There's a no left-hand turn sign going into Panera Bread. People do it, police do it, everybody does it, all right? It's not signage that prevents people, it's infrastructure, it's curbs, it's things that actually block out somebody to keep them from doing something stupid. And that's what I tell the students all the time. As an engineer, you can post the signs all you want, but once you design the infrastructure, once we have the roundabout that makes that little left before it makes the right, so you get that sight distance, you start changing the behavior of how people drive. And so looking at this thing, what infrastructure can we put into it? I don't want to get into that. I just want to point out the issues. I want to point out the things and the differences between these 2 roads. And why can't, with the higher ADT, why can't 31 have the same data? Why can't 31 be normalized? Is this acceptable? I don't know, but I know that this is probably not acceptable compared to this, right? These are things that we have to consider. Back in looking at the speeds for the metrics, right? And this is looking at the pro vehicle data analytics. It's a 2 mile per hour difference to 50%. A lot of trucks come down on 31. 206 has a lot of trucks. There's a lot of people slowing down. This traffic signal slows people down. And so we're talking about 2 miles per hour at this point, right? It's not that much. And when we get up to 85%, they start to converge. And so it's not a speed thing. It's not a travel time thing, right? And commercially, again, I mentioned that's a commercially available data. This is from Hendrix data. This is from the DOT's data set that we're able to analyze. This from British. But this is all we're looking at, right? We're not we're not driving super fast. There are outliers. There are people who drive super fast. This is why I'd like to do a more intense data collection along there to see where those outliers are. And so even at 80%, people aren't doing like, oh, they're not doing 40, but when you go out there and you're capturing non-commercial vehicles, you'll see people doing 50, 60 miles per hour down these roads easily. And I'd like to make those comparisons between 206 and the 31. But again, as we start to look at this, what's the impact on the demographics? If we reduce 31 to 35 miles per hour, 30 miles per hour, if we put it and implement it in a road diet, what's that do to the property taxes? The property value in the area? What's that do with people driving in the area? I've spoken directly, not officially with surveys, with multiple professors who are very interested in it because they live around TCNJ's campus. They're like, I have to drive to work, I feel unsafe. And if we can make them feel safe, that's 2 or 3 cars off the road, maybe a couple more cars off the road. Next thing you know, maybe we have 500 cars off the road, which doesn't sound like a lot. But the problem is 31 right now is not treating the local public. It's not treating the local residents. It's being used as a conduit between 295 and something on Olden Avenue. I don't know why you have to get down to Olden Avenue doing 50 miles per hour. There's really nothing down there to attract it to it, right? And so these are things as Parkway, as the Parkway starts to, they're going to start doing the road diet on Olden Avenue, right? They're going to start making these reductions, and this is going to be that other link that needs to connect those up. And so this would be a good time for the planners of Ewing Township, for Mercer County to work with the DOT to start to work through these processes. And I'm not trying to present solutions. I'm just trying to present data. Again, congestion. This is where people start to go, well, there's going to be a lot of congestion, tons of congestion. And I don't disagree. There will be more congestion. But 206 has congestion, but notice it's in the southbound direction. These are the number of hours in a day that it's below a certain threshold. And I think it's like 28 miles per hour. And so in front of a college campus, is it a problem to be below 28 miles per hour? I don't think that's too much of an issue. That's only 8% of the time in the month of April, and this is just for April. We have the ability to collect this data and analyze it for years. But right now, this is 1 month. Right? And this is when school's in session, right? This is when the high schools and the buses and people are moving. But that difference, right? Route 31, not a lot of congestion. Makes sense, right? It has 4 lanes. You shouldn't see that same sort of congestion. What is going on Tuesdays? I have no clue. But something's going on Tuesdays in April, and some of these could be resolvable. I don't know what those issues are. I don't believe there's a factory letting out on Tuesdays or something like that, but that's something we did see at Purdue University. Like, why are we seeing all these weird traffic happen at 7 o'clock in the morning at this particular intersection? Well, Alcoa plants happen to let out at that time. I don't think that's the case here, but there might be a causation for this. And it requires more data collection. It requires more analysis. And I'm not talking a whole lot of analysis. This is a free project. This wasn't funded by anybody. This was a student of mine working on their research track project. And we're able to put this stuff together. And this is all free data that's got, well, DOT pays for the NREX data. But we're able to use that data that's already available. So we're not going to extreme here. We're just doing a basic study and be able to point out these differences. Saturday and Sunday, no problem. Nothing going on there, not a lot of traffic. Well, that makes sense as well. Breaking it down a little bit more, right? So for April, looking in the other direction, right? These are the northbound. So we go from the southbound where people coming off of 95 might start to aggregate things. So maybe it's an issue at 95, right? We're looking at an entire mile for that corridor. So we can start pinpointing exactly where these issues are, and they may be resolvable. But again, I asked the question, we're talking about 4 hours for Thursdays over a course of a month for every Thursday. Is that a lot of congestion that's below 28? More analysis is people at a dead stop? No, probably not. They're probably moving, it's just a little congested. But again, during the AM and PM peak times, with the college, with the high school, these are acceptable. I go through the process every day of dropping 4 children off into a line. And my oldest has started driving. She's like, what is wrong with people? Nobody pays attention. Nobody uses blinkers. People just go where they want. Like, this is school drop off. It's 15 minutes of hell, for lack of a better term, and then it's fine. And so that 15 minutes might be reflected in here. We don't know. All right, but that would take more data gathering. It sounds like a sales pitch. I'm always trying to sales pitch. I'm always looking for money. Right? Well, let's just go to the conclusions, right? Further research needed to evaluate lane reduction potential for 31. So why did I do this in the beginning? The school asked me, hey, we're looking at maybe developing the other side of 31. We need to build more dormitories. We need to do something. There's political aspects of that. There's economical impacts. But then if they're going to do that, what's the effect on the churches? What's the effect on the land value? What's the effect on everything? right? We do have campus town. If you've ever been to TCJ, they've built this awesome campus town. It's a draw for people. If you want to see where a new origin for the origin destination study, or destination, excuse me, for an origin destination study, that's destination. It's also mixed use, right? Students who live above, people below, restaurants below. It's great. Why doesn't that share with the neighborhood? Neighborhood can't get to it as easily. It's just not easy to get to. So they have some parking problems. US 206 had a higher volume, more congestion, lower speed, much lower number of crashes per mile though, right? Because you do slow people down, and that's sometimes not a bad thing. Determinations need to be made based on presented data, and further research is needed. I will say till the day I retire, there's always further research needed. At the end of every paper I write, more research needed, more funding required. All these things that I want to do in order to keep this moving. The proximity to schools, residential neighborhoods, and similar site statistics indicate that State Route 31 should be considered for a land reduction. Lane reduction. My spelling is not the best. My apologies. Or lane reduction or a road diet. And that's my personal opinion. If TCJ wants to develop the other side, if we want to connect down to Holden Avenue, if we want to start bringing the community into the campus, this is how you do it. And if you go to the campus, which I do in the summertime, you see the community using the campus. Or you see people walking, you see it's part of the community, and it needs to be connected to the community. And I'm always asking my engineers, as you're designing things, make these considerations. I live in New Hope. There's a huge over 55 community right next to the supermarket, and there's literally no connection. There's an old dirt path that literally an older lady was walking down like she's going to slip and die. But instead of just putting a $5,000 sidewalk in, she has to go all the way around. This connectivity has been inherent. We're doing this a lot in the U.S. Improvements to local infrastructure could benefit historically community in the immediate region, historically underserved community in the region. And at what point are the trade-offs between the number of crashes and travel time satisfied to justify increasing congestion for a more safe, accessible route? And that's the big question we're always trying to balance as engineers. Can I make it to Philadelphia in 45 minutes? Yes, I can do that. I'm gonna have to go very fast and I'll probably die on the way. Right? Can I make it 30 hours? Yeah, you can do that too, but nobody wants to get there. There's always these balances between extremes. So that's the reason what I'm having today. It's a sales pitch. My apologies, but that's what I'm trying to pitch. I'm trying to pitch the idea of lane reduction. I am not anti-car. I love cars. I love highways, but I think when you get to the neighborhood sections, you got to make a little bit different consideration. So that's all I have. Any comments, questions, concerns? Gripes, no complaints though, please. Just gripes. Yes.
This question, when you compare like the facility that you look at Orange area, the college versus that prior to the debate, simply one of the driveway at the front is there, very small.
No, honestly, that's a good thing to consider. No problem.
In college, it's spread out a lot more. So the other side.
Yeah.
Plus, as you look at number of students in comparison between the enrollment plus how many commuters versus non-commuters.
We started looking at that data, did not get that data in there, but we started to look at that. Absolutely. No, absolutely. No, you're absolutely correct. But we also thought about the fact that those travel volumes already included that sort of information. So either the students are on campus or they're not on campus. Now we have a higher amount of commuting students. Does that mean they crash more? Judging by my students, yes. They do. But no, that's a very good, I never even thought about the frontage. That's a very good.
What is this mirror? Like you go by drivers, like no, so one driver you're passing.
Yeah.
They're developing straight back. That's
That's why I wanted to present that.
Crossing points, people in the back. Various sections of there.
And Ryder doesn't have the draw. They don't have the restaurants and things like that. They're on campus where these are right on the road. But no, that's a very, this is why I wanted to present this, to get the expert opinion. So it's just me in a room talking to a student all the time, and my occasional connected automated vehicle people, but they don't have nothing to do with the demographics and the historically disadvantaged and the equity, but these are the things that I'm interested in. So by presenting it here, I want that feedback. So frontage is a very good point. And honestly, I don't know why I didn't think of that. It makes complete sense. Make that comparison. Yes?
Rates and derivatives data does not take into account rubbernecking delays.
Correct.
And that is in your data picture here. So when you're looking at the delay equation, or the congestion, as you call it, it might not be just congestion. It could just be another crash and the rubbernecking delays. Reportable or a non-reportable crash, but the resultant rubbernecking delays are showing up as congestion on bridges.
That's an absolute valid point. Hence the need to get deeper into the data. And the reason I'd like to actually put my own sensors out there to collect that sort of stuff.
And the other question, the other thought that you had with the road diet, increasing congestion. That is not always true.
That's also very great. It might decrease it because people get off the road, or it might just flow better.
Or the friction when you're weaving, when you are when you're trying to avoid somebody or somebody's in the left lane, you're going around that person. The friction that is caused by those maneuvers actually adds to the congestion on the roadway. The smoother the flow, car following theory, the smoother the flow, the lesser time it'll take you to.
And that's a huge point, and especially at Carlton, there is no left turn going south. There's no left turn going south, and you see people go winging around. And there's also a bus stop right at that intersection that doesn't have a pull-up. So again, people pull up, and then you get that last in, first out sort of scenario. People start whipping around. And I'm not sure if you know, Jersey drivers are not the kindest when it comes to letting people go in and say, oh, sorry about your bad luck, and they go right past you. So the last person coming in, they're like, this is my opportunity to pass everybody. And the same thing happens at the 7-Eleven too. Everybody lines up to the right, people go to the left trying to get past it, and then somebody's making a left there.
And that causes more congestion.
No, that's very, it's the Price's paradox, or whatever. You add more lanes, you cause more problems.
Plus more shadow patch.
But these are all the details that I need to talk to people out. Like I said, myself in a room with a student and talking, I don't get that.
However, with the destination thing, yes, PCNJ created a destination with the town center.
Yes.
But when PCNJ was coming to the DOT for an access permit, they should have mentioned something.
They should have.
And if I'm not on DOT to go back and say, well, destination is created already.
No, these are the discussions with.
It's shared responsibility, SSO.
Absolutely. So this is why I meet with the College of New Jersey folks, and they're like, well, we're just going to do this. Like, we can't just do it. You got to plan it. And then, well, unfortunately, we had the president who understood that. She's a planning background, but now we no longer have her. So we'll have to figure out the next one. But do you have a question?
More of a comment.
Oh, please.
So I've always wondered when you see these roads. I had the opportunity, I was working out in Memphis a couple of years ago, in the vicinity of University of Memphis. There was a 4-lane roadway, just like right for a road diet. High value homes on both sides. Everybody drove the speed limit. It was like actually a pleasant road, and it was 4-lane. And I never understood why it worked. Every day I drove this road for 2 weeks. And I was like, why does this work?
Cultural. It's a culture. Like, I go to other countries, and like I was in Copenhagen for, you can't heard me say it like 1,000 times. I like Copenhagen. I like how everybody just kind of works with each other and moves, and everybody respects the bicycle. It's a cultural thing, and I think Tennessee has that cultural thing where you kind of slow down. In certain areas, they don't, and it's sad because, and plus there's also the enforcement thing. What is it better enforced? It's also another.
But I knew when I got there, when I was driving, that I needed to slow down. I don't know, nothing told me to, but I knew I was supposed to.
That's the behavioral science. This is when we get the behavioral scientists involved with this, right? How do we start to make people? Well, I was actually talking to a friend of mine who has 2000 Tesla. She's like, I drive to DC at 80 all the time, and I do my emails. I'm like, well, I just put it on automatic, and I'm driving down. I'm like having a heart attack, and they're like, dude, like my Bluetooth doesn't connect all the time. And like, you think? And so anyway, it's a different mentality with some people. Nice comment, though. Yes, we got.
For the two corridors, are the density of signalized, unsignalized, and driveways about the same?
Yeah, that was back on the thing. Yeah, so we didn't go to signalized and non-signalized, and then again, we just kind of got the basics of it just with the entrances, right? So then we had that sort of thing. Intersecting roads is what we have. Because again, those things start to cause problems. Teresa, it says no left turn, people think. Everyone does whatever they do. It's only when the police catch them that they stop doing it for a couple minutes. And we've actually done studies with blitz out in Indiana. Like, we started pulling people over a lot, and you see the travel time go up, and 15 minutes later it goes right back where it was. And so enforcement's a tough thing. I think it's better to engineer the infrastructure to be more conducive for these types of things. Yes, please. I love your comments. You know that.
Sidewalks never cost $5,000. Where did we develop the sidewalk?
It's about 10 feet.
It's not $5,000.
It's Pennsylvania. They don't make it out of asphalt. It's basically like just, I don't know, stone. Just done. Sidewalk, good enough. They don't have shoulders in Pennsylvania. They got a lot of savings from that.
That's not something to look up.
I do like 29 up north or Frenchtown. Like, you can ride a bike here. You go to the other side of the river, like, you will die. There's no way.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, welcome everybody to our third and final presentation called Developing Indicators for a Comprehensive Evaluation of Equity in the Transportation System. We'll have two presenters for this one. The first will be Catherine Abakan. She's majoring in Civil and Environmental Engineering at Rome University and completing her minor in Sustainably Built Environments. The other presenter will be Ruqayya Alfaris, who's completing her PhD at Rowan, where she currently works as a research assistant. Please.
Well, thank you everyone for attending. As we said, we'll be talking about transportation equity. So I am Catherine Abakan with Breakout. First, an acknowledgement. So this study is supported by a sub-award from Rutgers Cape under the grant from the US DOT. And so this is an outline of our presentation today. First, we'll start with the background of transportation equity. We'll look into our research goals here. We'll dive into the study approach, and then also look at our findings from both the literature review and professionals interviews. And then we'll look into the recommendations and policy implications of this study. So first, a little background. I'm sure a lot of us kind of already have an idea of what transportation equity is. I mean, you're in the session, right? Equity and mobility. But here we have transportation equity that looks at the fairness within transportation systems that integrate safety, accessibility, inclusivity, and efficiency for all road users and all transportation modes. Specifically, we examine the connectivity, accessibility, and affordability of transportation systems. So our research goals here. First, we want to establish a comprehensive and holistic definition of transportation equity, to understand the fundamental constructs and parameters that exert significant influence on equity within transportation systems. We want to develop performance metrics to gauge equity within the defined constructs. Establish a foundational framework for future studies that allow for the evaluation of equity in transportation systems using real world data. And I want to point out that this framework is meant to be flexible and adaptable to different regions and to different aspects as well. So looking now into our study approach. First, we started with a systematic literature review based on Google Scholar and Scopus search engines to establish a theoretical understanding of transportation equity and its many aspects. First, our search highlighted about 1,000 documents, and then our next screening of the title, keywords, and highlights review put that number down to 642 documents. And then our next screening was an abstract review, which put that down to 341 documents. And then finally, with a full text review, brought it down to about 92 documents. And then we're complementing this literature review with professionals interviews. And from here, we'll get practical lessons learned. These interviews were conducted online, and we'll be continuing to do those as well. But we'll elaborate a little more later in the presentation what exactly those interviews will be. And then from our takeaways from both our theoretical and practical lessons learned, we're developing evidence-based recommendations and providing performance metrics and policy implications to maintain equity in transportation systems. These recommendations are meant to aid transportation professionals, whether that's traffic engineers, planners, policymakers, and other transportation professionals. This is meant to aid them in the planning, design, and implementation of more equitable initiatives in transportation. So in our literature review, these are kind of these big constructs that we've identified: sustainability, spatial temporal, socioeconomic, safety, and also accessibility and mobility in regards to physiological aspects. And then I'm going to go a little more deeper into these constructs. First, for sustainability, a big barrier to equity with regards to sustainability is the unfair distribution of the benefits and burdens. Specifically, performance indicators that are in practice are pollution measures, such as PM 2.5, multimodal transportation, looking at like active transportation and alternative transportation options, laws and regulations, such as the Environmental Justice and National Environmental Policy Act. We're looking at guidelines towards a more sustainable approach to transportation. And then looking into safety, another barrier is approaches to safety must account for all road users. And we know that that's not always the case. So we have a lot of things that might look into like vehicular, like road users, but then the safety aspects for pedestrians and bicyclists, it might not be to that level. So we look into performance indicators for practice, such as crash rate and fatalities. And these look at the occurrence and severity of crashes. And there are a lot of efforts now to make our approach to safety more equitable, such as Complete Streets, Vision Zero, and Safe Systems approach, and many more. But this challenge is that despite all the literature about crashes, there's less also of a breakdown of socio-demographic scenarios with regards to, all, like, who exactly is involved in these crashes and what does that mean for the equity. And then next we'll go into spatial and temporal. So this looks into the distribution of places, of people and services, and also the timeliness of service availability. Access based on spatial land use patterns. This is looking at like access in mixed use areas versus like different other land use areas. Long travel times for some populations, so that some people can be disadvantaged in that sense. Accessibility is also lower in later hours, so this will negatively impact people who might work like late shifts. And then some performance indicators in practice. It's distance to transportation facilities. So there could be like spatial gaps there. And so, too big of a gap there, there's less equity. Travel times based on available modes of transportation. So travel times could differ between like single occupancy vehicles or someone biking in an area where, those are possible like modes. And then spatial correlation to accessibility. So that's looking at like origin, destination studies. In terms of socioeconomic, we're looking at the ability to afford different transportation modes or routes. And we want to make sure that this is inclusive to all people. Performance indicators and practices like level of income, race, occupation, education, local transportation infrastructure. And this is something that should be examined in more specific context in the area, because all these different factors can have different implications based on where you're studying. And then with regards to accessibility and mobility, we're looking at level of transportation service availability and feasibility to reach destinations. So we're really evaluating the available transportation services and their catchment areas. So the performance indicators in practice, proximity to transit stops, specifically for those that rely on transit. Looking at mode share, how do people kind of make it work and how do they like get there, and what role can transportation professionals play in aiding that process? We look at vehicle ownership, and this will help us understand the need for alternative transportation modes, because that might be the only option for some people who don't own a vehicle. And now, pass it on.
Thank you, Catherine. So Catherine has just summarized our findings from the literature review, which is purely theoretical. Some of them are studies that are being examined on the real world, but in order to get or enhance this perspectives and understanding, we tried to interview professionals who are either currently working on equity-related projects or they can have experience in that and they already worked on these projects. So we did conducted interviews with 11 different professionals. These 11 professionals were selected from 9 different agencies from 9 different states and 2 national programs that provide guidelines for equity and safety in the United States. The states from where we selected our interviewees are California, Colorado, Delaware State, Minnesota, New Jersey, of course, Pennsylvania, and Utah. We do have an interviewee from Washington State and Wisconsin. And those interviews were, of course, implemented or conducted online. The records were taken and then transcribed to the CAD in order to understand and analyze our findings from the interviewees. The interviews were very much semi-structured. We did not have a fixed dialogue between the interviewer and the interviewee in order to make this discussion very much valid and to take the best out of it. Majorly, it consisted of 10 questions, which were flexible and changed based on dialogue during the interview. The participating organizations were recruited purposefully. As I mentioned, we targeted organizations that did work on transportation equity. And the sampling method very much judgment and opinions for the interviewee. We selected them, we contacted them based on the convenient mutual time. We booked an appointment for the interview. A background about our interviewees in terms of their field, years of experience, and affiliation. In terms of that field, we did have 7 engineers who were transportation engineers, traffic engineers, or they're working in engineering departments. The 4 other interviewees were varied between policymakers in the policy aspect or in the management. They were project managers who overlooked the equity project. In terms of years of experience, we categorized this into 3 different categories: less than 5 years, and we have 1 interviewee who had less than 5 years of experience. Interviewees who had 5 to 10 years of experience were 4, and then we had 6 interviewees who had more than 10 years of experience. In terms of their affiliation, we had 1 interviewee from nonprofit organization, 1 from an academic institution, and 9 from public institutions, which varied between being states, DOTs, or NPOs. Our findings from the interviewees were categorized into 2 major aspects. First, to find that falls into our defined goals. The first one is to define what is transportation equity and trying to put terms that could reflect transportation equity. And we did, from the conversations with our interviewees, we heard multiple definitions. Some of them talked, and most of them mentioned the fair distribution between the benefits and burdens of transportation systems. Some of them talk that wherever we look at inequities, we don't find that then the equity is there and the system is equitable. Some of them considered safety as a major aspect to look at the reliability of the system. All of them had or somehow touched based on how inclusive the system is, it is equitable. And some of them looked also at how affordable the system is and how a person is free to choose a system or a transportation mode in order to get their destinations without any obstacles. Specifically, once we talk about equitable destinations, jobs, and education or health destinations. So the 3 major terms that we're mostly find within our interviews are equitable transportation system is mostly inclusive, fair, and accessible for everyone. Once we're talking about performance measures, we did also ask our interviewees about the most performance measures that could be used in order to evaluate how a equitable transportation system is. And those are ranked based on their importance or based on their frequency mentioned from the interview. So the most term that or the most performance measures that were mentioned by the interviewees is safety. And this was proposed to be measured either by the crash fatalities or how system is, how safe the system is, or the crash occurrences. Engineering standards and how this was the second most frequent one from the interviewees, and how if you want to look at transportation project or transportation initiative, how much does it comply with the existing standards, and evaluating also the standards themselves. Due to the changing of people's need, whatever transportation modes we have right now, 5 years or 10 years ago, some of them were not there. So these standards and regulations need to be updated consistently in order to fit into our goals or our equity goals for the transportation projects. And the third level, or the third most frequent performance measures were mentioned, is the health conditions for the community itself. And the determinant outcomes of these health conditions is one of the outcomes or one of the indicators that we can look at whenever we look how equitable transportation system is. The community engagement within implementing the different transportation project, is it implemented equitably, or it is just implemented to sake of checking the point of, okay, we did community engagement. The diversity for both the team that is conducting the project and the people who are using that or getting benefit from that initiative. funding. And once we look at funding, we look at the dollar amount that is allocated for underserved communities and initiatives that does fall into equity aspect. Some of the times we do have like a big dollar amounts allocated for a specific area, but where is it going? How is it being allocated? Is it there or not? Is it considered no road users or not? This is one metric that could be used in order to evaluate equity. That comes into last. The last ones are mentioned once by each interviewee. We have bus ridership was one metric for one of the states. Much here and how it is going on within the mode using. Transportation affordability is another metric. This is interesting. Transportation and housing costs, but they have both. This metric has to combine both of these aspects together in order to evaluate how the political system is, or if people has a fair opportunity of transportation. That's part of the fact that if people live away from the center city, they might have a cheaper house, but they have to pay a lot of transportation. Vice versa, if they are living near the good jobs or the high wage jobs, they do not have to wait to pay much for transportation. So these expenses or these both has to be combined together in order to have a good metric to evaluate equity. Transportation Security Index, which has recently been developed by the Washington State University in combination with some other NPOs and the state DOT. Resiliency is an important aspect and important metric in order to evaluate how affordable a transportation system is. And those were purely from the interviews, but we do see like some of them intersecting with what we found from the literature. Some of the recommendations that we can build upon our findings from both the literature and the interviews. Diversity and inclusion is one important aspect to consider while we are both implementing the transportation projects, planning for them or designing for them. All the way, the process from all the way planning, design, and implementation has to be diverse and inclusive, considering all community members. Engage the community in decision-making process, specifically the marginalized groups. And once we're talking about this aspect, we're not talking about community engagement that is being done to check the list, but rather than doing that is going to the people where they are at, trying to join some events in specific communities in order to hear the voices that are unheard. Specifically, when we're talking about vulnerable population or underserved communities, people might not get the time to come and attend a session about a project and that is designed and planned with the conveniency for the project managers or whoever is implementing the project. Prioritizing safety by addressing the hotspots and implementing public awareness campaigns. And whenever we're talking about safety, if we're going to consider it from an equity aspect or from an equity lens, we have to disaggregate the data that we carry based on the social demographic characteristics or the vulnerability indexes that we have. Ensure the transportation affordability, especially specifically for marginalized communities. Some initiatives are being done for this aspect as subsidizing specific services for specific vulnerable groups in the communities. And of course, encourage the use of green transportation options that improve air quality. But there's a critical aspect about this before we try to promote walking and biking. We need to ensure that there is a safe environment for these people to walk and bike. Some policy implications using some existing ones that they are already in our transportation systems, and that could be also a potential or room for enhancement. Reallocating resources toward areas with historically less investments and maintain transparency in funding allocation. And this is technically targeting the dollar amount for the projects and their distribution among the communities. The data collection and monitoring techniques and guidelines. Data disaggregation by race, income, and ability is very crucial in order to understand how an equitable a transportation system is. The partnerships with health departments, environmental agencies, and community organizations, which very much should provide a holistic understanding and a holistic approach for equitable transportation system. Of course, regularly update engineering standards to reflect the latest best practices in safety and sustainability and to meet the different needs for people that evolves over the time. And ensure compliance with already existing stuff such as the environmental justice standards to prevent the disproportionate negative effects of marginalized communities. this very much concludes today's presentation. Thank you so much, and we can take any questions.
I just want to ask, what are the keywords that you use to search for the studies from scopus and the scholar? What words do you search for to select the studies?
So Scopus is very much different than Google Scholar to look for the studies. You need to build your formula in a way that you target the studies that you want. And in this case, we use the Boolean terms for and. Once we use the or we had transport equity, transportation equity. We involved public transit. We had accessibility, affordability. We had inclusivity, and we also had communities. We had the terms underserved and vulnerable as well. We did like very different combinations using the different standards. Yeah, in order to tackle. The Google Scholar was pretty much basic. Like,
One word.
yeah, no, a title or a topic or.
You have find any situation where additional community members are subsidized or transit and other communities.
Yeah, so once we looked into the case studies aspects, we did find some of them nearby in New Jersey and in Pennsylvania were not specifically their transit was specified, their first and last mile trip was subsidized. So vulnerable population, including older adults and people with disability, got a subsidy in order to bridge their first and last mile gap and to get into the transit. And that trip was specifically for the health center where they have their doctor. And there was an evaluation for this initiative before and after, and they noticed a very major reduction into the canceling the appointments and skipping the appointments by these people once they subsidized the service.
Finally, New Jersey, there's
That was in Pennsylvania, not in New Jersey. In New Jersey, the one subsidization that we have is the on-demand transit services that targets older adults and people with disability. And some of these services, sometimes before COVID, they used to provide service on a wider range. They used to include shopping trips, personal trips, or leisure trips. But right now, for the ones that we examined, it's basically served right now only medical appointments. But it's still subsidized and they don't have to pay for it.
Okay, if there's no further questions, thank you very much.